Hi, my name's Roz. I was diagnosed on the 9th of February 2010 with stage 4A nodular sclerosis Hodgkin's lymphoma. The diagnosis didn't come out of the blue to me. I had been expecting that diagnosis for a long time. I had been to the doctors in July 2009 with Hodgkin's lymphoma symptoms. I went when my little boy was only 6 weeks old. My only symptom that I actually had was pain, which was induced by alcohol. Literally just the tiniest amount of alcohol that I would consume would give me a real shooting pain in my right shoulder. It would make me cry. I'd have to go and lie down. I'd get all hot and clammy, and it was just awful. I'd never known anything like it. It took me a while to put two and two together that it was only actually happening with alcohol. I'd recently had a baby in May 2009. Obviously, while I was pregnant, I didn't drink, and I thought it was just maybe my body getting used to alcohol again. I was wrong. As I say, I didn't put two and two together for a while, and once I realised that it was only actually happening when I was drinking alcohol, I googled it, which in hindsight probably wasn't the best thing to do. I probably should have just gone to the doctors, but looking back, I'm really glad that I did, because in the end I ended up seeing 3 GPs, and only one of them had heard of the alcohol-induced pain as a symptom of Hodgkin's. I was sent away from the doctors for about 4 months until the one doctor I saw ordered a chest x-ray. I had a chest x-ray, and I was then ordered back for an emergency CT scan, and I was then seen at a chest clinic, and I was told that it probably wasn't lymphoma, and that on the CT scan it actually looked like a cyst, so that they were going to refer me to the thoracic surgery team, who would then arrange to have that cyst removed. When I was eventually seen by thoracic surgery, probably about 3 or 4 weeks later, they again looked at my CT scan, and apparently the mass on my chest was about 10 centimetres by 5 centimetres. So yeah, it was quite big really. I was booked in for surgery. The guy I saw told me that the surgery I'd probably have to wait between 6 weeks and 3 months. Now obviously I know that they told me that they thought it was a cyst, but I didn't have a very good feeling about it, so I'd call my consultant secretary the next day to find out how long it would take for me to have my surgery, and she called me back later and told me that I was actually booked in for 2 weeks. I then again googled the surgery procedure and what I would have to have done to remove the cyst, and it was horrible. I was petrified. I was convinced I wasn't going to have it done. I didn't want to have the surgery done. I was scared. I was going to be left with huge scars. They were going to break my ribs to get the cyst out. I was going to be in intensive care, and I was just thinking, well, if it's only a cyst, I don't need to have this done. I can leave it. I don't have to have it done. And I was just a mess. I was telling my husband, make sure that if anything happens to me, you make sure that my little boy knows about me, and that you tell him how much I love him. And I was just so scared. I didn't want it done, but I knew that I had to, so I did, and I had the surgery done, and they didn't break my ribs, they didn't leave me with a huge scar. They took a biopsy, and it was then that I knew that it was cancer. It had to be, because if it wasn't, they would have just removed it. It took, my surgery was on the 29th of January 2010, and I got my diagnosis on February the 9th. I was seen by a registrar. She didn't look any older than me, and she looked like she was going to burst into tears herself when she told me. I was originally told by her that it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, at which point I was really worried. Because although with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma the chances of relapse are lower, the chances of cure aren't as high, so I've been told. So she told me it was non-Hodgkin's. My husband was with me. He held my hand, and I was just full of questions. What happens now? What treatment do I need? What happened? Will I be able to have more children? When will my treatment start? But she couldn't tell me any of this because she wasn't anything to do with haematology or oncology. She was simply a chest physician, and she told me that I had an appointment the next day to see a haematologist who would then plan my course of treatment. And we left. I was in the room for about 5 minutes, and we left the room, and we walked out, and my husband just I was walking, I was just trying to get out of the hospital to the car, and we were by the doors, and my husband just grabbed hold of me and pulled me into a hug, and I just started sobbing. I was scared. I had an 8-month-old little boy. What was going to happen to him? If anything happened to me? And then I had my cry. I made 3 phone calls. A phone call to my best friend, who was due to go to Germany that day with work. He cancelled his trip. I phoned my brother because I couldn't tell my parents. I didn't want to have to tell them that a second child of theirs had cancer. So I told my brother, and we talked, and we agreed that it would be best that I didn't tell my mum and dad until the next day, once I'd seen the haematologist and found out more information. And then I phoned my father-in-law. We got home, and my sister-in-law was there. She was looking after my little boy, and she came downstairs and she asked what had happened, and I couldn't tell her. I had to get my husband to tell her, and then we had a little cry together, and we had a hug. And then my friend came round, and we ordered pizza because we didn't know what else to do. And that was that. And I allowed myself that day to be upset, and I allowed myself that day to wallow. And the next day, my outlook changed, and I saw my haematologist, who was lovely. She explained everything to me, what was going to happen, what are the tests I'd need to see how far it had spread, if it had spread. And you know, I talked to her about my concerns about fertility and not being able to conceive any more children. I wasn't done being a mum yet. I was only 28. I wanted more children. So she referred me to the fertility clinic, who I then saw a few days later. And later on that evening I went to my parents' house and I told them, and I held it together, and I was strong, and I didn't cry. And I think because of that my mum managed to hold it together too, and she didn't cry either. I know that she did as soon as we left. But you know, she stayed strong for me. I got in touch with the Lymphoma Association, who sent me lots of information, and they had a chat room. I found out about the local lymphoma support groups, which I have been to. I've been to quite a few of them. I don't think I've missed one actually since I started going, and I've been able to meet other people that have been through the same as me. I had 6 months worth of chemotherapy. I didn't lose all of my hair, I lost most of it, but it's kind of growing back now. I don't know if you can see, but I've got some what I call chemo curls. It was dead straight before, it's not anymore. I had 6 months of chemotherapy. I finished my chemotherapy in August 2010. I was supposed to finish in July, but I had pneumonia and I was in hospital for a week. I was in intensive care, so they had to delay my treatment to make sure that I was well again. September the 28th, 2010, I was told I was in remission. December 15th, 2010, I was told I had thyroid cancer. When I had my initial scans to find out the stage of my diagnosis, they noticed a spot on my thyroid that was showing up on the scan. I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't had a lump on my thyroid or anything like that. They did do a biopsy on it, but the biopsy came back inconclusive, so they decided that just to be safe, they would remove the half of my thyroid with a lump on, and that came back with a malignant diagnosis. So I had to have the other half of that removed. You can see, I don't know if you can see my scar, it's healed quite nicely from my thyroid surgery. I have to take thyroxine every day. At some point I will need radioactive iodine treatment, but the consultant is happy for me to put that on hold because we want to conceive baby number 2. Hopefully bring some happiness and good news back to our lives, which will be nice, and what's nicer than a new baby. So that's my next project, I guess you could say, to try and bring some normality back to life, I suppose. My little boy recently turned 2, which was quite emotional. He's growing up so fast, but I'm just so glad that I'm still here to see him grow up. It's only when I talk about him that I get emotional, but he's still got his mum, and I'm here to see him grow up, and I hope that this is me done with cancer now. I'm turning 30 soon, so hopefully that'll be a new start for me, and hopefully it'll be cancer free.